Hey guys, what's up? How's everybody doing today? Welcome back to the channel. So we are currently on the road. We're en route to Muldoon's Diesel to drop off our 48 RE, and we might be dropping off the torque converter too, so he can send that down to Phil at DPC. I might just let him handle everything, just, you know, one-stop shop kind of deal. But I talked with him yesterday on the phone before we even pulled the transmission. Him and Phil kind of had the same kind of idea of what happened. You know, I burnt the torque converter up, and when we got it out last night and I looked at it today, it looked even worse. But I'll put a couple pictures up. As you can see, the converter saw a shitload of heat. I mean, it just absolutely fricasseed. I got a little bit more fluid out of the converter. I just put it in a 5-gallon bucket I had at home, but I got a little bit more out later in the day, and I'll put a picture of that up now. Man, just that little bit of fluid, it stunk to high hell. And as you can see, there's no red tint to it. It's all gray and black and shit. So that's kind of the game plan for today. At least get that thing dropped off. Talk with John about what we're going to do to it, because the reason we're going with John is not that I'm unhappy with the previous build. I think the transmission's probably in perfect shape. The clutches are probably fine, but with that thing frying like that and destroying those two transmission filters that quick, there's probably shit all throughout the transmission. You know, the valve body should be going through, and everything should be going through. I was thinking about taking it to John this winter to have him do some upgrades, like the Torrington bearings, weld the planetaries, maybe a couple other things. So we're just gonna, you know, do that a couple months earlier than planned. That's really why we're going to John. That, and he's, from what I've seen, I've been following him on the line for quite a while. He seems like quite knowledgeable about valve bodies, which to me, you know, that's the brain of the transmission. So that's something great to have. So we can have that all in one shop, rather than having, you know, valve body from one shop, you know, this from that, and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm choosing to go with John, and I look forward to meeting him. I've never met him. I talked to him on the phone yesterday. That was about it. So I hope you guys enjoy the ride, and I'll see you when we get to Muldoon's. Drove by. All right, here we are. We're back at the house, back at the garage. Dropped the transmission off to John. Talked to him. I didn't bring you guys with me because honestly, that's the first time I've ever met him. Second time speaking to him. I spoke on the phone with him yesterday, so it'd be kind of rude, kind of ignorant for me to just throw a camera in his face. Anyhow, we discussed the options for the transmission and kind of got a game plan going. So really the game plan is for him to rework the valve body kind of how he sees fit for our application. It is currently a fire punk valve body, but we're going to make a couple adjustments. Nothing actually major. Also, we're going to keep all our shafts because we have a fat input shaft from DPC. We have a fat output shaft, and we have a billet intermediate shaft, though it is the 300M shaft, not the 300 marging, or, well, the other billet shaft, which is a little bit stronger. We're going to just stay with our setup as far as shafts go. Our drum setup's going to stay the same, but we're going to have some custom things done that John does, such as the Torrington bearings, which really takes some drag away from the transmission, allows it to free spin a little bit more. And he also told me that when you have a truck that's over 1,000 horse, they definitely see premature wear of the thrust washers, which is what those bearings will replace. Also, he's going to TIG weld the planetary gear sets up, so they're solid welds rather than spot welds like they come from the factory. There's a vent in the front pump housing. They relocate that to the overdrive housing because they said at high RPM, high pressure, you will get seepage out the front, so it appears as though your transmission is leaking. So they relocate that to the back to avoid that. Also, in my talking with him, I kind of decided I think I'm going to add another auxiliary transcooler, and I am also going to add a gauge on the hot side of the transmission where the fluid comes out to enter the coolers. We're going to add a gauge there so we get a more real-time feel for our transmission temperatures, as the pan gauge really only gives you like an average. You know, you're mixing the cool stuff with the hot stuff. Now we'll know exactly what's coming out of that converter, because as you'll see in the pictures I'll put up, that thing was fricasseed. I mean, it got really, really hot. So he even commented on it. He said, wow, you know, you turn that thing some colors. So that way we'll avoid ever doing that again. Now I know that, you know, doing that in that succession definitely creates a lot more heat than I ever knew or expected. So it was an expensive learning on my part, but we can be sure that's not going to happen again. So I did not realize the amount of heat I was generating by doing that with the converter. Another thing, between him and Phil down at DPC, talking to both of them, it seems like we're going to loosen up the converter a little bit more, which if we ever go with compounds after we have a built motor or whatever, we might be able to use rather than having it free stall. But that should also keep the heat down when we're trying to spool the truck. Just looking at the converter, John said he thinks it's about a stock stall converter. Before I just kind of let Phil take care of that. I told him what I had and all that. So John will be in contact to let us know what's going on with the transmission. What other upgrades. I told him if there's any other upgrades he thinks are necessary. I said it's 1,000 horsepower. It's going to be more. I mean, it's going to go up. I'm not one to be happy with something, so we're going to probably keep increasing. But, you know, any upgrades that are necessary or would be preventative for that, I want to do, and just get them out of the way. So I know this video was probably a little lackluster, just kind of me and then a little bit of driving around, but it is what it is. You know, we had to get that thing down there to John and get working on it so that way we can get it back. So hopefully it's only out a couple weeks, but we'll see. So until the next time, you guys need to get out in your garage, get to working on your truck. Oh, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Subscribe. All right, guys, I'll catch you later.